Hey, what's going on, everybody? I figured I'd give a July tank update. Everybody in the coral seems to be, or in the tank seems to be pretty happy. Corals are growing, um, reproducing, doing their thing. Um, so the goal of this particular experiment was to see if I could get the coral to grow to the frag rack, which it has started doing. And it looks like it's actually coming off of the rock that was glued to the frag plug, but it's like I said, it's growing on the rack, the frag rack, and on the back glass, which I'm okay with. I'm hoping that this is like a plating type of coral, where it will once it's happy, it'll start growing out and up away from the frag rack. This guy's doing great. He was kind of a naughty boy and was stinging some of the corals inside the horseshoe of the rocks, and so I moved it. Seems to be pretty happy here in the back corner. This is my money maker here. This coral, it's called green starry polyps. I bought the initial chunk for 30-40 bucks, and this coral I've been cutting and gluing to rocks and gluing to frag plugs and selling to a aquarium shop in Fort Worth. And this particular coral, I've made over $1,000 off of it, so I'm pretty happy with it. Each time I cut it, I make sure to leave just enough so that it grows back. And I usually cut it up about every 6 months. So it's recovering very nicely. And it was just 2 weeks ago that I cut it up, so yeah, it's doing really well. As you can tell, this torch coral sends out runners, and those aren't happy, peaceful runners. Those are stinging, and I think that's what's going on with that paleozoa on the rock. There is that it's reseeded because it doesn't want to get stung. Now, it was reseeded prior, so this torch coral may not be the cause of it being reseeded, but I will keep an eye on it, and if I have to, I'll move the torch coral again. The frag of Walt Disney is doing well. It's starting to encrust or cover over the frag plug. You just got to keep it in high light intensity, high water flow, and keep feeding the tank, and it'll keep growing. I love these little guys, and I don't know what they are, but they're red and purple and pink and green and just really colorful. Little cactus coral. So there's the forest fire digitata, and it's happy where it's at. It's encrusted the plug, and it's actually growing to the rock and sending out a new branch just above that butterscotch Montipora. And even that butterscotch is growing off the plug and onto the rock, so I'm really happy with that. This guy is a voodoo acropora. He's doing pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the polyp extension. It's kind of slow, and I don't know if it's because it's not getting enough light or not enough flow. It's been in the tank about 2 months now, so we'll just keep doing what we're doing, and if need be, I'll pluck it off the rock and move it somewhere where it's getting better lighting and better flow. But that is my PAR sensor, and what PAR basically is the intensity of the light. And ideally, for these acroporas, these stick-looking corals, they want 250 to 350 is kind of the range that they do best in. And sitting here, that PAR sensor is giving me a reading of about 227 PAR. So it's not in that ideal zone or range, but I have a screen on the top of the aquarium, and that screen is to keep the fish from jumping out, which they do periodically. So until I figure out something about that screen, because that screen's actually reducing the intensity of the light, so I'll have to figure something out with that. Got a couple different acans here. Really happy with them. Just gorgeous. Got my crazy Zoa rock. The green and yellow ones are radioactive dragon eyes. The orange ones, those are Fiji Bam Bams. And they started out with like 5 or 6 on a plug, and they've just spread out. So I'm really happy with that growth. And then there, I'm not sure what that is. That is actually, though, a Montipora. It's not an Acropora. And it has encrusted on the rocks and actually started growing some branches. So you can't really see it very well from here, but that's Fruity Pebbles Acropora. And it's encrusted on the frag plug and is growing onto the rock. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing there, and hopefully we can get some really good growth out of it. The more it grows, the better the conditions are, the more colors you'll get off of it. So, and this guy's just taken off and gone crazy. So I really think, the tank's been up and running about 2.5, almost 3 years. And I think I finally have got the tank dialed in pretty close to where it needs to be for corals to grow and do really well. Got a blue bird's nest that is encrusting on the rocks there, and then it's being surrounded by the Fiji Bam Bams. So hopefully they don't go to war with each other and start stinging each other. We'll see how that plays out. Got a little Duncan here. I'm trying to find its happy place. I keep moving around looking for it to find a happy place where it's not getting too much light and too much flow, and it seems to be doing okay here. I'll just have to keep an eye on it. Here's an example of when I'm talking about encrusting, how it grows off. You can see the circular shape of the frag plug and how it's grown past that onto the rock. So it's doing good. I'm happy with that. Got a little blasto going there. Alright. So there's my plate coral and all its little babies. Doing really well, popping up new babies here and there. I know I gotta have at least over a dozen babies that are still attached to the mother colony. And as long as it's still alive and relatively healthy, it'll keep popping babies out. So a nice little acan there. Now this guy here, if I understood correctly, it is a Dragon Soul Favia. You can't really tell with the filters I've got on here, but it's got purple, orange, yellow, and green. It's really pretty. And this guy, there was a gap between the two rocks there, and as you can see, it jumped that gap and it's growing onto the rock next to it. So we'll see how it does. Keep an eye on it. Got a little Zoa garden in the corner here, and this guy, he's doing really well. I'm happy to see him puffed up and happy. Really happy with how that acan's doing. Looking gorgeous. Hopefully these zoas will spread out and cover the rock. These guys looking gorgeous as ever. This guy started out as about a 3/4 of an inch, and he's just growing, putting arms out and growing, and putting more arms out and growing, and just happy as could be. It's funny how when I want to take pictures of the fish, I can never get them in the shot, and when I want to get a picture of the corals, I can't get the fish out of the shot. So this is a Pinky the Bear, and he is really reaching out and encrusting on this rock. And where he's encrusting, he's shortly after he encrusts, then he starts sending out a lot of polyps. Oh, pardon me. So he's doing pretty good. Now some of these tips are pink and some are purple. I'm thinking that this coral might be one of those that needs a lot more light intensity than what it's getting, but it still is getting enough that it's growing out onto the rock. So as soon as I figure out what I'm going to do with the screen on top of the tank, this is the screen. And that screen reduces the amount of light that passes through, but at the same time it keeps the fish on the wet side of the tank, which that's kind of our goal here. So once I figure out what to do with that, then we might be able to get some more light intensity into the tank. Fish are all doing really well. Let me come around and get a frontal view of the tank. Now the sand kind of looks yellowish green, and that's the orange and yellow filters in the tank. But I do have some algae growth in the tank, so I kind of need to increase the flow in that part, and that will make it harder for algae and different bacterial blooms in the sand. All in all, she's doing pretty good. I'm pretty happy. She's in a groove, and we just got to maintain that groove, and things will continue to grow and flourish in the tank. Fish are doing well. corals are doing well. Alright, y'all. I'm going to wrap this up. We're pushing over 15 minutes. So, y'all have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you soon.